Today we're going to talk about a basic setup for Babel and webpack for a React project. Uh, what does all that mean? What is Babel? What is webpack? Um, First and foremost, we're going to need a project to work in, and as we install these, I'll explain kind of what they are and what they're doing, and what these configurations really mean. So in modern web development, we're going to use a package manager, something like Yarn or APM, and we're going to do init and -y to bypass all of the annoying questions that it asks. So essentially what we have now is a package JSON file that is more or less useless, but this does allow us to install dependencies. So we're going to do yarn add React and React DOM. So now we can use React and React DOM inside of this project. And if we cat our package JSON again, we see we have dependencies of React and React DOM. React and React DOM is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Webpack and Babel. And so if we install Webpack and Webpack serve at version 2, the newer version for some reason doesn't behave on my machine, but if we go ahead and install these, we're putting tooling in place to take lots of code and bundle it into, in this case, one file, but we can bundle it into multiple files. If we want to do code splitting, we can have that based on route, we can have that based on packages. You can do a lot of really powerful stuff with Webpack. It's a bundler. You may have been familiar in the past with something like Grunt or Gulp. They're task runners. They were used a lot of times to do bundling. They're at this point a bit dated. Now what we're adding here is Babel Core, which is the core of Babel. We're adding some presets so that we don't have to do a whole lot of configuration. And we're also adding a loader so that we can use Babel through Webpack. It's pretty neat. Now, if Webpack is bundling, what Babel does is compiling. So it's taking JavaScript that may not be usable in a browser and compiling it into something that the browser will recognize. So it does some really neat stuff. It's super useful, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So this is our Webpack config. We've installed all the dependencies. They're here in our package. This looks good. This looks right. We will need a start script, but we'll get to that after this. This is the heart of our project and what's going to allow us to write code like this with JSX and doing some fancy stuff and put it in the browser so that it knows what to do with it. So with any Webpack config, the key here is the entry. This is where Webpack starts to crawl your project to see what it needs to pull in, but it needs, first and foremost, where's it going to put that? So we've given it an output of bundle.js in a directory called dist, which is a very common practice to put things in a distribution folder or dist. Gatsby also uses a folder called public, which is another pretty common practice. It's really kind of project to project how you want to handle that. But within our module, we are going to give it rules. So Webpack knows when it encounters a file with the extension of JS that's not in the node modules folder, it's going to use Babel loader, which we just installed. Now we can hand options off to Babel loader by adding them here. So what we're telling Babel now, this could also live in a Babel config, but for our purposes it makes sense to have it all in one place because we're not using Babel on its own. We're only using it in Webpack. So we're feeding it the preset React and the preset env, And the cool thing about env is you can tell it, hey, target this environment. So right now we're targeting the last 2 version of all browsers. This is really powerful and pretty straightforward to write. In the past, it hasn't been quite so straightforward. So this is pretty neat stuff that you get to do now. So what we have is a functioning webpack config, and we have what should be a functioning app. Now, how do we run all this? We need scripts. So we're going to add a script here, a start script, and we're going to do webpack serve and give it a config, and that's going to be this config, which is webpack.config.js. Right, so now we have this start script. So if we go here, run yarn start, it's going to run that script, and what we have here is basically the results of, hey, it's transpiled or compiled. So we have React DOM, we have React, and it's all bundled into a single file that is allowing us to display React, right? So what have we done here? We've gone from this basic React app to through all of this configuration, essentially to create a development experience. So you have the freedom, and this is kind of a point of contention within React. You have the freedom to develop and create project structures however you want. And this is a great thing. But that lack of direction and that lack of kind of hard and fast rules, some people have a hard time with and don't really like. And it can create problems. You can have a total wreck of a project if you don't plan and structure it properly. So we'll get into more of those kind of opinions and ideas in other videos, but this is a basic functioning webpack config that opens up that opportunity to build a project. Now, if you're using Gatsby or Create React App, it handles all of this for you. It creates, scripts and runs Webpack and runs a development server and all of that for you. You're never going to need to touch this stuff. But having some understanding of what's happening under the hood is a really good idea. So hopefully you found this somewhat informative, and we'll see you next time.